Hey everyone, and welcome to The Truth, where today we're going to find out the truth about Drake May. Now, there have been some interesting talks about how Drake May could potentially be better than Caleb Williams. Look, I haven't done enough research into that yet. It's just his freshman season. So, just quick overview. Drake May played at North Carolina. He played for a total of 19 snaps, or not 19 snaps, 19 plays that he was actually involved in, not just handing the ball off. Look, this is not enough to see how good his season was, and that's important. We need way more tape. You need way more games and a full season at least to figure out who Drake May is and how really good is he as a passer. But he did show some really good athleticism escaping the pocket. It was really interesting to see where he would catch the ball, take the snap, and then look downfield, no one's there. Okay, I'm gonna scramble out the pocket. Which is interesting, what North Carolina did with him was he take the snap and run more QB draws up the middle, showing he's a little bit more physical, more like that Josh Allen type, where he's gonna try to run you over a little bit, but he does show a little bit of sliding too, so you can't do that. He had one bad mistake where he should have thrown the ball away, but took a sack, and I think that's mainly just some experience. He's a freshman during this time. No more experience will help him out. He also had 4 small mistakes where the ball was a little too far in a fade, a little behind on a run to the running back, where he kind of tried to. It was like a swing route kind of, and he tried to throw it, but it was a little behind him. And then there was a ball that was a little too low on a comeback, which is just timing and just getting first team reps with those guys. That's all that's going to fix it. But it was a little too low on the comeback. Kind of had to pick it up close to the ground. You really don't want that, especially in tight coverage. And then he had 14 positive plays where he made the right read, made a play, escaped the pocket, scrambled, whatever. 14 positive plays where he just really did well, and it was interesting to see. This gave him a success rating of 73% on a total of 19 plays, which isn't bad. But then again, it's only 19 plays. There's still much, much, much more to see. And I know this is a short video, and I do want to try to do something different. Let's talk about some NFL news. So the Bears tight end Cole Kmet earns a $50 million deal. It's a 4-year extension, including $32.8 million guaranteed. Now, this is really nice to see. See a tight end getting paid, getting his money, getting what he deserves. That's awesome to see. And it's awesome for the Bears too. I mean, look, you got a really good tight end who's young, who's still getting better, and it's interesting to see. The Bears might be a good team this year. Might be a really good team this year. Let's talk about Damar Hamlin. He's back at camp. He looks healthy, and that's so exciting to hear. Just because, look, what happened to him was tragic. God bless. He's okay now. So it's just good to see him back. Good to see a football player back on the field at camp. It's awesome to see. It's so heartwarming. And now for some really interesting things. Bleacher Report posted a realistic Josh Jacobs trade suitors. And it's interesting to say the least. So let's get into it. Josh Jacobs, of course, I believe he's on the final year of his deal. Saquon did sign his extension, which was a 1-year deal with, I believe, about $11 million. But look, running backs are crazy underpaid now in the NFL because their shelf life is so short. So it was interesting to see because Josh Jacobs doesn't want to be there. He wants money. It's interesting to see who they thought could make a realistic trade. The first one was Buffalo. And I think it's possible that Buffalo can make a trade. It would make sense. You get a really good back. But here's the only thing. Buffalo has about $4 million in cap space left, and they did sign Latavius Murray. So you already have James Cook, who you drafted, and Latavius Murray, as well as Damian Harris. it's a little bit of a crowded backfield, and I don't know if Buffalo, like, don't get me wrong, it would help out Buffalo, yes, but is this the trade with that few amount of cap space that you think will take you over the hump? I don't necessarily think so. That's why I don't think it's that likely that Buffalo makes that trade. Um, then the next team they suggested was the Jacksonville Jaguars, which was so interesting because Jacksonville already has running backs. Like they have Travis Etienne, and Travis Etienne is a little bit different of a back than, let's say, Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs, yes, he can catch other backfield, but Travis Etienne is basically he's basically your receiving back. And then you bring in Tate Bigsby, which is, look, out of college, he's that pounder. He's going to bring some force. So it would be interesting to see if they did try to trade for him, but I don't think it's that likely. Look, like I said before, you draft Tank Bigsby, you have a receiving back out as Travis Etienne. It would be nice to have a third back, but you already have that and Dearness Johnson. And it's just like, do you really think that would make a big trade? Like, do you really think that's the smartest move for Jacksonville? Maybe if injuries happen or if they really believe in Josh Jacobs, but I just don't know. Then the next team they had was the Miami Dolphins. Now, Miami, I don't think would make this trade. I do not believe Miami would make this trade, even though they have $12 million in cap space. I do not believe. It just doesn't make sense to me. You have Jeff Wilson, you have Raheem Morris, and you draft Devon A-Chain. A-Chain, I believe is how you say his name, which makes no sense why you would. You also have Miles Gaskins. Like, why would you trade for him? It makes no sense to me. I think maybe Bleacher Report try to get 5 teams in there and just threw Miami in there because it just doesn't make sense. You have a really good running back core with Miami right now. Plus, you have free agents that you don't have to trade for. So it just, the wires weren't connecting, if that makes any sense. And then were teams who I think are a lot more likely to make this trade, the New York Jets. Now, of course, disclaimer, you do have running backs you could trade for, but they all older. Brees Hall. Why trade when you have Brees Hall? He did get injured last year. He had I believe it's a knee injury that he's dealing with. He's on the PUP list, the physically unable to perform list. However, he's young. He has 3 more years on his contract left, and he played pretty well last year. Like, Brees Hall was pretty good last year. Now, the running backs also on the Jets are as follows: Michael Carter, Zavon Knight, and more, and Travis Dye, and they have a lot of running backs. Now, are these Brees Hall level running backs? Are these really good running backs? I haven't done enough tape, but they aren't considered top 32 running backs. Josh Jacobs is a top running back. So I could see if you're Miami, maybe you don't know how well Brees Hall plays. Maybe if you can't agree to a deal with a running back in free agent, maybe you do say, hey, maybe we do give up some cheap picks in this draft, because I don't believe he'll go for a lot, just because from what it seems is Josh Jacobs isn't happy in Las Vegas, and I know, like, it doesn't look like an optimizing area for them. But look, maybe you give up some later round picks because you just don't know what you have in. Well, you do know what you have. You kind of know what you have in Brees Hall, but he's injured, and you're kind of skeptical a little bit, which is fair because he did get injured. And then the last team, which I think is maybe the most likely, the Washington Commanders. So Washington is very interesting because you do have Antonio Gibson there. You do have Brian Robinson, which I believe is how you say his name, Jonathan Williams there. But here's the thing with Antonio Gibson. And here's why I think this is between the Jets the most likely team to sign him. Antonio Gibson only has 1 year left on his contract. He got injured last year. You know, it's hard for me to say that. Look, if you're the Commanders and you're really trying to put together a good winning season, you're trying to break into that playoffs because you were the last team in your division last year. You were. You know, it's a tough division to compete. You need guys. So I could understand why, if the same reason like you couldn't find a deal with maybe some of these running backs in free agency, or you really believe in Josh Jacobs, you want to trade for him. Maybe you do end up trading Antonio Gibson and a pick for Josh Jacobs, which makes sense because they're both of them on their 1 year deal. So 1 year left on their contract, I mean. So it makes a lot of sense. They're both going to be unrestricted free agents. So maybe you just say, hey, look, let's make a 1 year deal. Maybe let's extend this guy and see what we can get out of him. See if, like, hey, look, if Josh Jacobs balls out, maybe we do give him a couple year extension and not let him go into free agency, you know. But it's just hypotheticals. These are possible trades by Bleacher Report. And that's the video. Leave a comment. Tell me what you think about Drake May, or any of the other topics we talked about. Thanks for watching.